November 5th may be a day you recall from the Back to the Future film. It was on that day in 1955 that Doc Brown came up with the flux capacitor. I can't help but think that may be a nod to a real-life event that occurred on the same date 20 years later in 1975, when the Sex Pistols performed their first public show, ironically on the same day. In Snowflake, Arizona, in the Apache Sitgraves National Forest, a 22-year-old forestry worker named Travis Walton was taken by alien beings and vanished without a trace for 5 days before being returned. It's one of the U.S.'s most documented modern alien encounters. I'll get it in post.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
It's alive!
With me.
They're coming to get you. By the power of Christ. This is...
Me?
Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants podcast. And today we have a special guest. We have Mr. Poss joining us from Central Illinois. How you doing, Poss?
Doing really good, man. Good to see you again.
You as well. It's been a minute.
It has. You escaped. You had to escape velocity. You got out of Illinois while you still could.
It's never too late. Never too late.
Is that okay?
So, how you doing today, Spar?
I'm doing good. It's good to see Matt again. So it's been a while.
You
you guys have no excuse. You're literally like 20 minutes from each other.
Yeah, it's hard, man. When you're a musician, you never see your friends.
Yeah, I know.
Except your bandmates, and you usually hate half of them. So
yeah,
at any given time.
I get it. Yeah, that's what a family is, man.
That's right.
It's a love-hate relationship. Well, what do you guys know about this incident? Obviously you've probably heard of this. I know they made a movie about it. It was all over the news back in the 75.
Fire in the sky.
I think you were a little too young back then. Jack, I don't think you were alive yet.
I think I was negative too. I was hanging out somewhere.
I remember the movie they made about it.
Yeah. It's kind of bullshit, but yeah, they did make a movie about it.
But that was a very clear depiction of an abduction. Whenever the guy goes out into the forest to check it out, and then he gets beamed up. I mean, that was the first time I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
That was pretty good special effects for the day.
Yeah. The eyeball scene, man.
Was it?
That sounds right.
Robert Patrick.
I
think that's how he got in X-Files. I think after.
Is that right?
I bet
Possibly.
It was from that movie. I didn't look into it, but
and then also, what's the guy's name? Henry, the guy that from E.T. Henry, the kid that played Elliot. He's in that too.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't.
He played the youngest member on the team that they were out there. But
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get this. Go ahead.
No, I didn't know the Sex Pistols had their first public gig that day. That blew me away.
I always try to research and try to find some interesting facts. But yeah, the exact same day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think they got bottles thrown at them and stuff when they came over to the States.
Yeah, they're probably terrible.
Yeah. It's punk rock. You're supposed to be bad.
Well,
that's right.
Maybe not as bad as Sid. Maybe you could learn to play the bass.
This was right. that would be pre-Sid. Yeah, this was the original bass player.
Oh, was
he
it?
He joined later. Yeah, Sid joined the band after the fact. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought Sid was playing bass.
Nah. All right, gentlemen, you ready to dig into this? Dive in.
Yes, sir.
All right, feel free to, if I miss something or something snarky you want to say to me, now's the time. Okay. Just interrupt me whenever you want.
You don't have to give me permission, my man.
I know I don't.
Be in there.
All right. So Travis Walton lived in Snowflake, Arizona. At the time, in 1975, the population was around 6,300 people. So not a really big place, right? It's a small town. One of those places probably kind of like where you both live. Everybody knows everybody. It was founded by these two Mormons, Erastus Snow and William Jordan Flake, hence the name Snowflake, back in 1878 as a Mormon community. It's about 118 miles southeast of Flagstaff and about 51 miles north of the Fort Apache Reservation in the Sitgraves National Forest. So that's kind of where we're at, which is up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. So at the time, 22-year-old Travis was working as a forestry worker for his friend Mike Rogers, who was 28 at the time. Mike had been hired on contract from the U.S. Forestry Service to thin out and clear trees to be burned during the wet season in the Apache Sitgraves National Forest near Turkey Springs. At the time, they were pretty far behind their schedule, and they'd been working from basically 6 a.m. to dusk in order to complete the job on time. And the 7-man crew, described as a rough bunch, consisted of Travis, Mike Rogers, Alan Dallas, John Goulet, Dwayne Smith, Kenneth Peterson, and Steve Pierce. I'm sorry. And all these guys knew each other except for Alan Dallas was kind of a drifter, kind of a dude. He was the a-hole of the bunch, if you will. He liked to pick fights and shit. So that Wednesday started out like a normal day. They went out and they cut some timber down. Part of them would cut the timber down. The other crew would start piling it up, to be burned later. And there was at some point during the day a close call between Travis and Alan Dallas when Dallas started, cutting really close to Travis and like almost hit him with some downed trees. Yeah. And apparently some words were exchanged. But, they continued to put up with Alan because he was one of the fastest members on the crew, and they were just trying to get the job done on time.
Well, Alan was like taking passes at Travis's woman.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. That morning, before they left, he was telling Travis's girlfriend that she needed to leave Travis for a real man like him.
And then
I'm a real man.
And then Travis beat his ass.
Yeah.
He wasn't happy about it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So
that guy, Travis used to be a boxer. He was into into karate and boxing and stuff like that. Yeah, I wouldn't mess with his girlfriend.
The majority of these guys are all of Mormon faith. So,
okay.
I mean, when they get off work, it's not like, let's go get some beers. It's not even, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. That's kind of how the question. So,
yeah.
I used to work construction, so I was kind of like, I thought I was in that mindset. Like, construction crews are rough.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're 20 years old or 23 years old or whatever, man.
I imagine like a forestry worker would have to be somebody that's like construction tough, but also they've got some trucker blood in them too, because
right.
So they know all the dirty jokes.
Right.
So, you don't really want to mess with them, probably.
Right.
No. They know how to use that axe.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so these guys worked until just after 6 p.m., and then, they all loaded up into Steve Rogers' 1965 double cab international truck, which sounds pretty badass. And they slowly started to make their way down this really rugged path that they had to get. And, they used to go down and hit all these bumps, and they used to call them thank you, ma'ams, because every time it was wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Makes sense.
So shortly after they begin, heading home, they see this bright golden yellowish light from behind a hill on the right side of the truck. And at first they think, well, maybe somebody is out there hunting in the dark using spotlights. But as they get closer to the light, they see that it's coming from a higher point than the crest of the ridge, like above the tree line, when they had first noticed it. So they get pretty curious and they start driving towards the light. And so they drive into this clearing that they'd cut earlier that was just full of brush piles that, they were going to burn later. And they see this large disc-shaped object hovering 15 feet over a pile of slash, a bunch of downed trees that they'd cut. They said it was around 8 feet tall and 20 feet in diameter It was metallic and glowing, like a golden glowing light is how they described it. So Mike stops the truck, and Travis jumps out and immediately starts running towards this thing.
I don't get that at all.
To get a better look, and Mike's like, "What the hell are you doing? Come back here, boy!" And the other men, they all started shouting at him too, tell him to come back, but he just made a straight line straight towards this thing, and I guess he was thinking it was going to fly off, and he missed the opportunity to see what it was. He's like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, so I'm going to take advantage of it. So that's what he did.
Close enough.
Well, that worked out really well for him, huh?
Yeah, it did.
So all the men state that up until this point, the craft had made no sound. It just hovered there, lighting up the night with this weird, strange golden light. And then they said that as soon as Travis was almost directly below the craft, it began to make these loud turbine jet-like sounds and started to beep. And then it began to wobble from side to side. And at that point, Travis began to kind of cautiously move away from it. And just after he ducked behind this brush pile, the 6 other men that were there, they said they saw this beam of blue light come down from the disc and hit Travis. And they said that this blue light shot down from the bottom of the craft. And when it did, it made this crackling sound like a lightning strike. That's what they described it as. Then they say that they saw Travis rise a foot into the air and kind of hover there with his arms and legs outstretched just for a moment. And then he was blown back 10 feet, and he hit the ground really hard, right in his shoulder. His shoulder hit the ground first, and he was just laying there motionless.
Travis said it happened a lot quicker than what they did in the movie, but they didn't want to make it as fast. They wanted to drag it out. So that's why he was in the movie, they levitated him up before they shot him back. But he said it was way quicker than that. It was
the way that I found it described was it basically kind of sucked him up and then pushed him back.
Yeah. It was just
the sound out?
Bam. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Trying to knock him out before they suck him up into the ship or something.
I don't know if they were trying to suck him up into the ship. That's just it.
Yeah, I don't know, but
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Certainly knocked him out, though.
Yeah. Travis claimed that from the moment when the light hit him, he saw and heard nothing, and all he felt was this numbing force of the blow that he compared to a high voltage electrocution.
Ugh.
So at this point, these guys, the other guys, they freak the F out. They presume that Travis is dead, and they took off like a bat out of hell in this truck, fearing for their own lives. And for, just a brief moment, they think this thing is chasing them. So they go several minutes down this road, and then they see this craft rise above the tree line and take off at a quote unquote highly improbable rate of speed. I'm trying to keep this I'm trying to say these kind of things in this episode so I don't get anybody that tells me I'm using the wrong terminology.
Well, too bad. That's going to happen anyway, man.
Yeah. Bring it on, bitches.
Okay.
So at this point, Mike Rogers, he stops the truck, and they sit and, they kind of discuss / argue for a little bit about whether or not they should go back to town or they should turn around and go look for Travis. And, finally Mike says, look, I'm going back. If you want to stay here, that's fine. But I'm going. And they all decided they'd go back and look for him, and they presumed they would find him there dead. So they go back, and no Travis, no sign of Travis, no footprints walking away from what happened to Travis, no indention in the ground of Travis. He was just flat out gone. And so they searched the entire area for him for about an hour, and then they really start to freak out. And so they head into the nearest town, which was Heber, Arizona. And one of the crew, Kenneth Peterson, he called the police to report Travis was missing around 7:30 p.m. And Deputy Sheriff Chuck Ellison answered that phone call. And when he initially reported this missing persons report to the sheriff, Kenneth failed to mention that, maybe they had seen a UFO. He forgot to leave. He kind of let that part out.
Go ahead and leave that out.
Yeah. So Sheriff Ellison, then meets with the crew, and, they tell him what happened. And, while he's listening to this, he's like getting as close as he can to them, to see if he can detect any sign of like alcohol in their breath or marijuana on their clothes, anything like that. Nothing. I mean, they were stone sober. And he said that 2 of the men were in tears. They were all really visibly upset. And before he called it in, he told Kenneth Peterson, you better be sure you're telling me the truth, or you're fixing to be in a whole lot of trouble. And even though he was really skeptical of what they told him, he later said that, if they were acting, they were awfully good at it, because they all seemed to be genuinely upset, So Ellison calls it in to his superior, Sheriff Marlon Gillespie, who had Ellison keep them in Heber until he could arrive there with another officer named Ken Copeland to interview them. And in less than an hour, Gillespie and Copeland arrived, and then they heard this tale from the crew. Mike Rogers was really insistent on returning to the scene as soon as they could to search for Travis. They wanted to take, tracking dogs if possible, because, this scent's fresh out there and they could possibly find him. But no dogs were available. So the police and the crew returned to the scene, and let's see, some of them did. Not all of them did. Crew members Smith, Pierce, and Goulet, they were really upset. They were too upset to search, so they went back to Snowflake, and they started telling their friends and their family what had happened. While the remaining men searched the area, law enforcement officers start to become a little suspicious of the story, because there's no physical evidence anywhere to be found. No sign of Travis, no footprints, nothing. I mean, there's just nothing there.
I do want to say something real quick. I'd like to get your guys' views on this, because they said in the movie, like, these guys went to the bar afterwards and would hang out. But in his story, they didn't actually hang out together. They went to work, and then they went home and lived their separate lives. So if you see some dude that you just work with, that you're not really friends with, he's just an acquaintance, basically, that gets sucked up, or you think he gets thrown away from a ship, are you running like hell, or are you staying to help him?
I'm running like hell.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do?
It's fight or flight,
Yeah. And then going back to find him, I get, because the ship left. So I'd be like, oh yeah, we can go back, and I would assume it'd be like some gelatinous puddle of nothing. Right. But I'd want to go back.
There he is right there.
Especially if you saw him get thrown to the ground.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
that's why they were like,
he's dead.
Yeah. That's what they thought. Oh, that guy's done for. Let's go before it's us next. So I get that. Because as a super good friend, I'd want to, help, but
yeah. Well, I mean, like, apparently Mike and Travis were like best buddies at this point. I mean, during this time.
Yeah, I was talking about the other guys in the crew that were wanting him to leave.
Yeah. I get that. All right, I'm going to continue if that's all right with you, Spar.
Sorry. I was just.
No. We're good. All right, so more cops show up, more volunteers start to arrive, and they continue to search the area. Still no trace of Travis, and they start to become pretty concerned that if they didn't locate him, he might die of hypothermia, because he'd only been wearing a jean jacket and jeans, like a denim jacket and jeans, and they knew that if they didn't find him, he could die from hypothermia. So anyway,
in the desert, up in the mountains at night, it's going to get cold.
Oh, yeah, we both lived in Phoenix, and it snowed. Yeah. Got down to 30 degrees still. I mean, it get 99 by noon, but yeah, it's the desert. That's what the desert is. So apparently they started to split all these men up from the crew into separate search parties. And this crew member, John Roulette, he says that he recalled one of the deputies telling him, if you just show me where the body is, or just tell me what you did with Travis, we can all go home. So, the cops, we're in day one, and the cops are already suspicious of what the hell's going on.
Well, I don't even know if it's suspicious. I think they already think they know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, this is the easiest way to do it. So,
Yep. So after hours of searching, Mike Rogers and Sheriff Copeland, they go to Travis's mom's house. Her name is Mary Walton Kellett. And I guess her house is about 10 miles from Snowflake on a small ranch at an area called Bear Creek. So Mike explains to her what happened, and when he gets done telling, her this crazy, fantastical story, she has him repeat it a couple times because she's like just dumbfounded. She's not quite grasping it, and I'd probably have to have at least 2 takes as myself. It's pretty freaking nuts what's going on here. So,
or she was doing her own kind of lie detector test to see how much the story varied.
Yeah. So when Mike gets done telling her for the final time, she asks him very calmly if anyone other than the police and other members of the work crew had heard this story. And Sheriff Copeland thought her response was kind of odd, but Mary was known to be fairly guarded. She raised 6 kids by herself, pretty much. Because of that, she really didn't fall apart if the shit hit the fan. So, she was just kind of like, well, it'll be all right. She hoped for the best kind of thing. And so this also helped kind of further Sheriff Copeland's suspicions that these guys might be trying to cover up Travis's disappearance.
Yeah.
So 3 a.m. that day, Mary calls her other son, Dwayne Walton. It's her second oldest son, and he drives to Snowflake from his home in Glendale, Arizona. By the next morning, police and volunteers had searched the entire area where Travis was disappeared extensively. They found nothing. Like I said, no footprint, nothing. And this just pretty much furthered the police's belief that the crew was covering something up. Whether it was a homicide or work accident, something like that. So they were all pretty much fucked from day 2.
Yeah.
The cops were interviewing them all pretty extensively. They really pushed Travis's mother, Mary, really hard, like to tears. They would drive to her house and just drill her over and over again with the same questions, hoping she's going to slip up, give up some new information. And they were just trying to force her to make some statements that they could use because they had 0 physical evidence.
And when all the people are saying what they actually seen, there's no way anybody's going to believe it. I mean,
we'll get there. We'll get there in a second. Okay. So Dwayne gets to his mom's house and he sees what's going on, and he got just outraged. He told the cops to leave. They weren't welcome there. He told his mom, "You don't have to answer the questions because you haven't been charged with anything." And he told the police not to come back until you have some different questions to ask. He pretty much had it with the cops.
Get it? I get it.
So,
70s.
Yeah. Saturday, I think he arrived Friday evening. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's when he arrived. Saturday, the next day, Mike Rogers and Dwayne Walton, they storm into the sheriff's office, and they're fucking pissed because they went to the scene to continue to look for Travis, and there's nobody searching for him out there. All right. So at that point, the sheriff's like, well, shit, I guess I better get my shit together and, get some people out there. So by that afternoon, they had a lot of people out there looking for him with, he had helicopters, horse-mounted police officers. He had Jeeps. Still no sign of Travis. So by Saturday, word had gotten out to news stations, newspapers. It's like a wet dream to them in the 70s, you hear something like this. Alien abduction or murder, regardless, it doesn't matter. It's going to sell papers, right?
For sure.
It went worldwide, made international headlines. The sheriff was pretty much overwhelmed by phone calls from all over the world wanting to know all the latest updates on the situation. And all these news reporters and ufologists from like NICAP, which is the National Investigation Committee on Aerial Phenomena, and MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, and the GSW, the Ground Saucer Watch. These guys all show up. Okay.
I never heard that one.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It's one of the poorest ones. Yeah. You've probably heard of NICAP and MUFON because they've got more money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
better,
gonna be it.
better funding. So one of these guys named William Spalding, he was with the Ground Saucer Watch. He contacted the Waltons and he told them he would give Travis a free medical exam by a doctor if he was returned, and he told them it was important for them to collect Travis's first voided specimen.
Oof.
Meaning,
yeah, poo.
No, piss. They want his piss.
Oh,
I was going.
Yeah.
Well, there's
Wrong
3
end.
specimens you could take.
Technically 4 if you want to get real particular.
Okay.
But let's just go with the P first.
Let's go with P.
So all these groups were around because, the Air Force had, by this point, I think it was in 1968, they killed the Blue Book, Project Blue Book.
Yeah.
So, the Air Force isn't going to do anything about any claims to this. So that's why all these ufologists have taken it on themselves to go out there and find out what's going on.
I wish I knew how they could afford to do that. Just to ship off. I've seen something happen here, and I'm just going to travel there and try to document. How can you? I don't. Independent.
Just wait.
Okay.
I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, another one of these UFO investigators named Fred Sylvanus interviewed Dwayne and Mike about the disappearance of Travis. And that kind of fucked them both because they fucked themselves in this interview, stating some things that would be used later by skeptics to lean the whole theory that the whole UFO thing was a hoax. They gave the account of what happened to Sylvanus, and then they expressed their frustration with the police department not taking them very seriously. Sylvanus recorded this whole interview on tape. And also during this interview, Mike pointed out that he would not be able to finish his contract with the Forestry Service, and he hoped that Travis's disappearance would help to litigate the contract in court. Boom, right there. That doesn't sound good, does it?
No, that's bad.
Okay. But his brother Dwayne did even better. He stated that, he and Travis, they'd always believed in UFOs. And he said, if we ever got the chance to encounter a UFO, they'd probably try to get as close as we could. If Travis had been taken, he was going to be fine because aliens were never going to hurt a human. And that's just the way it is.
Well, he certainly did try to get close.
He did. But he also said that like several years earlier, he'd witnessed a UFO similar to the one that the crew had. And he was really more concerned about the fact that he wasn't up there with Travis and all the spacemen. So, all these awesome statements they made, they pretty much laid the groundwork for all these skeptics and non-believers alike to just completely disprove this whole thing.
Not disappointed my brother's gone. I'm disappointed I'm not in a spacecraft with him.
God damn it, it's my turn. Yeah, it's one of those things.
Why does all the cool shit happen to Travis?
Right? So later, Travis would state that his brother Dwayne, all these claims that he made were false. He'd never had any interest in UFOs, and it's just some bullshit he made up. Basically, in the heat of the moment, he's trying to look cool, So on Monday, November 10th, a polygraph examination was given by Cy Gillison of the Arizona Department of Public Safety to all of the 6 crew members to determine if any of them were trying to cover up what happened to Travis. Steve Pierce, he was the youngest member of the crew, who'd lied about his age to actually get the job. He was 17 when he got the job. You're supposed to be 18, I guess, to do this type of work. He went first, and he stated that he was really nervous about this test because he knew that the cops were trying to frame him to look guilty, and that he thought they were probably going to be charged with Travis's murder. So this test per individual was about 2 hours in length, and they just asked the guys over and over again the same questions. Did you cause Travis Walton any physical injury last Wednesday? Did you know if Travis Walton was injured by some other member of your crew last Wednesday? Do you know if Travis Walton's body is buried or hidden somewhere in Turkey Springs area? Did you see a UFO last Wednesday when Travis disappeared?
Yeah.
Well, all these guys passed the polygraph. All of them. With one of them being inconclusive. Guess which one that was?
Well,
The asshole.
got his ass
Alan
kicked.
Dowse. Yeah, no, Alan Dowse. Yeah. And it could have been because he was pissed off. Could have been because he was upset. He passed it. Inconclusive means he passed, but he may not have been telling the whole truth.
Well, he didn't want to take it because they asked if he ever wished harm to him, and they had just been in a fight that day, and he was like, "I'm not answering that shit because of course I did." So
right.
He came back later and took it, and then passed it when he calmed down.
This guy, he caused trouble. He liked to pick fights with anybody he could. And like you said, they did. He and Travis did not get along, and so he was like, "Fuck y'all."
Do you think that's is that like a biological trait in people? Like, is that a gene, like the asshole gene or something? Like,
I don't know.
They're shit disturbers. They're just like they can't get along. They can't play nice ever, or they have to always. There's always one in every crowd. There's just one, or at least one.
Yeah.
And they're always like never satisfied, never happy. It's usually the bass player.
There we go.
No, I'm just kidding.
I thought you were going to say the bass player's girlfriend, but okay.
That's even better, yeah. That's even better, yeah.
So John Goulet claims that even after all these guys had passed the polygraph, Sheriff Gillespie still didn't believe him. Many years later, the sheriff stated very carefully that he, quote, thought they were trying to tell the truth about everything, unquote. Trying to tell the truth about everything.
Okay.
Not telling. Yeah.
Yeah, well, how are you supposed to explain that? You are trying to tell the truth. I don't know exactly what it was.
Now, polygraphs are not 100% reliable. They're not even submissible in court anymore. They haven't been for a while.
I didn't know that.
But at that time, it was high-tech shit. And these men have all retaken the polygraph several times since that incident, and they have all always passed. So, anyway. Cool. So later that night, same day they took this polygraph, and they all said, "Told you didn't kill him."
Yeah.
Travis's brother-in-law, Grant Nash, receives a phone call around 12 midnight, and he hears, "Grant, it's Travis. I need help." And he initially thinks this is a prank, wrong number or something. But Travis tells him not to hang up. He says, "This is Travis. I need help bad." And he asked Travis where he was at. And Travis told him he was in a phone booth by the Amoco station in Heber. So Travis calls Dwayne, and he goes and picks Dwayne up. And they drive out there to pick up Travis. Dwayne stated that Travis was in really bad shape. He was dehydrated, really incoherent. And, when they first see him, he's like hunched up in the back of the corner of this phone booth, trying to back away from him as far as he could. And then he broke down in his arms, sobbing like a baby, like just completely broken. Like, you know what I mean?
I get it.
And, Travis right then and there tried to explain, to his brother what had happened, but he was still in shock. And, he didn't even know he'd been gone for 5 days. Like, in his mind, it's still the same night he disappeared.
Yeah.
When Dwayne told him to feel his face, Travis noticed, he's got 5 days worth of growth, of a beard there. And Dwayne also said he looked like he hadn't eaten in 5 days. When they weighed him later, he'd lost 12 pounds. So,
it's a lot for 5 days.
Yeah, it is. Dwayne did not contact the sheriff that night. He was like, "Nope, I got to get this guy some help." So what he did was he called the guy from the Ground Saucer Watch to the GSW, William Spalding, and then they drove Travis down to Phoenix to see, I'm going to say this in quotes, "quote unquote" Dr. Lester Stewart. But Lester turned out to be a hypnotherapist who'd been a medic in the Army, and rather than go through the trouble of actually going to med school, decided to just put the DR at the beginning of his name.
There you go.
So They were there about 45 minutes, and they were just like, fuck this shit, we're out of here. But not before Dwayne gave Lester a jar of piss that he said was Travis's. So, at least he got that first voided sample. The test came back on that negative for drugs and alcohol, by the way. So, the Waltons were also contacted by the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, or APRO, who was funded by, you were asking where all these guys get the money, funded by the National Enquirer.
Oh boy, gee, that really gives you a lot of stability there, doesn't it?
Well, they hired a hypnotherapist, which helped him remember the details of the experience, the 5 days he was missing. But as it turns out, he only remembered about 20 minutes of those 5 days. And Travis said that the sessions really didn't help him remember the experience. It more clearly helped him verbalize the experience. So he just wanted to state that. So the 5 days that Travis was gone, the first thing he said he remembered was waking up very slowly, regaining consciousness, and feeling immense pain through his whole body. He said he had a bitter metallic taste in his mouth, and he was really thirsty. He thought something was really wrong with him. When he finally got his eyes focused, he sees he's laying on this raised table down on his back, and there's like a light directly above him, and he can see like a triangular shaped metallic ceiling, like the corner of it from, it goes all the way from the floor and all the way to the top of the room. He thought that was really weird. He's like, what kind of room am I in? What kind of hospital am I in right here?
Yeah.
So he said he still had all his clothes on, but his shirt and his jacket, they're pushed up above his shoulders, and he's got this weird shiny metallic device that's attached to him that's like around 5 inches thick and covers from under his armpits to just above his waist. And he said he just sat there for a minute trying to figure out where he was at, like a hospital. He said it was really hot, really humid, really hard to breathe, and the air was very stale. And he said after his eyes finally started to focus, he could see these 3 really blurry figures with white caps and masks start to kind of lean over him on the table. And as he focuses in on one of them, he notices it's got these giant dark eyes. He said these creatures' eyes were dark brown and like the size of quarters. It was completely hairless, no eyelashes, no eyebrows. It had pale white skin, large cranium, and a small chin. He said it was human-like, little under 5 feet tall, small hands and feet, and they were all wearing these orange-colored suits similar to like coveralls, but he didn't notice any seams in any of the fabric or zippers or buttons, nothing.
He was describing Greys before Greys was a thing.
Well, he's technically the second to describe Greys because, Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't as well known, I guess.
Right. He mentioned their disproportionately larger heads than their bodies. He said their bodies seemed tiny in comparison to their heads. Thin, small lips, small, round noses. And then he notices these other 2 beings, they're all identical, and they're just staring at him, never saying a word. And at this point, he's like, holy shit, I'm not in the hospital. And he hits the 2 creatures. He hits the 2 creatures on his right side with the back of his arm, and, they fall backward. In his book, he notes the, quote, muscles of its puny physique yielded with a sponginess that was more than fat than sinew.
It's like hitting a Jell-O mold.
Yeah, well, he described them as marshmallowy.
Oh, okay.
They were marshmallowy, like think Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
There you go.
So he jumps down. He gets down off this table. He stumbles back into this bench that's got all these medical devices, tools of some sort, and this device that's on his chest falls onto the floor. And he said it shot out this greenish beam of light onto the floor from the underside. So that would be the side that was facing his chest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he reaches on to this table. He's looking for something, that he can use as a weapon. He grabs this thin, clear cylinder that he said was around 1.5 feet long, and it's trying to break it so he can use it like a shiv, I guess, because these things are they're like reaching out their hands, like trying to come towards him. And he's screaming at them the whole time, like, where am I? What's going on? And they don't ever say a word to him. And he said that's the thing that freaked him out the most, is they never said a word to him.
Yeah.
So try as he might, he's slamming this thing down, and it just won't break. So he gets down in his best fighting stance, and he swings at these things as they start to, move in towards him. And he's screaming the whole time. And they basically back him into a corner. So he holds his tube. He finally gets his tube up, and he just holds it up over his head like he's going to wiffle ball bat these bitches.
Yeah.
And then they just stop, and they're, give him like a stop, like hand signal type thing. And they just turn around and they just leave the room. So he stops. He looks for a better weapon to use, something that would maybe be a little more harsh than a wiffle ball bat. And he doesn't see anything. So he heads towards the door, and he turns left, running down a curving hallway that he said was just 3 feet wide, because he'd seen the creatures leave in the right. So he said the ceilings gave off a very faint light, and the hall turned continuously to the right. He came to a doorway, the first doorway he came to, and he looked, he's looking for a way out, basically. And he said he goes into this room that's about 16 feet across. It's got 10-foot high ceilings, and it was completely empty except for a chair. So he's very carefully moving towards this chair because the chair is not facing him, and he's afraid somebody might be sitting in that chair, and he does not want to encounter another one of these things, right?
Yeah,
so,
but is it? You said like this room's like 16 feet across, and it took him a while to get to it. So does he think he's still on the ship?
Yeah.
So he's still on the ship. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they said, what did they say? 40 feet. They thought it was like 40 feet, but I guess 40 feet circumference is pretty big.
Yeah. So he said the closer that he got to this chair, the darker this room became. He said he could see small points of light on the ceiling, walls, and the floor as he got closer to it. He said the chair had a handle on the left arm and a green illuminating screen on the right arm with a square underneath it containing around 25 buttons. Cool. And like a dumbass, he just starts pushing some of these buttons in hopes that it'll open the door. But instead of like any magical door opening, he says all these points of light started to shift around him. So basically, I think he was in like a map room, or maybe this was like the control center. You know what I mean?
Navigation.
Yeah.
Just start hitting all these buttons.
Yeah. And, so he's like, okay, I don't want to wreck this. I don't want to kill myself here. I wreck this spaceship. So he stops pushing buttons. And he said he hears a sound, and he turns around, and he sees this human being, which he describes as like 6'2", muscular build, around 200 pounds. And this person's wearing a clear helmet and these tight-fitting blue like suit, this black with black boots and a black belt.
Clear helmet, like the Jetsons, just like a fish bowl on their head.
Yeah, like old school Flash Gordon. Yeah, like a fishbowl type helmet. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
So Travis runs up to him and just starts talking to him, asking him all these questions, but this person just remained silent. He said he had like a slight smile, and that's about all he gave him. And he takes Travis by the arm and leads him gently, out of this room, further down the hallway, down this. He said they went into like what he described as like a decompression room, where they sat for a few minutes, and then this ramp comes down, and they go down this ramp. He said it was like short, steep ramp. Is like 8-10 feet to the ground, and he's continuing to try to talk to this guy. The whole time this guy's just basically gesturing him to come with him, just follow him. He said as soon as he got out of the craft, he noticed that they were. It was like a daylight. He noticed seemed like it was daylight in color, but he said he noticed the cool, refreshing air. Cool, clean, refreshing air.
Yeah.
So
Well, he said it was hard to breathe up there where he first woke up, right? Isn't that what you said? He said it was hard to breathe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Basically, I think what he's describing, he's describing walking out of this craft, and he realizes, he thinks, it's bright as daylight where he's at, but he's like, it's like a giant hangar. So he's in this giant hangar, and he sees, turns around, he looks, and it's like the craft. He said the craft he exited looked a lot like the one that he saw in the woods, but this one seemed a lot larger. Like 40 feet in diameter. So I don't know if it was the same craft that, he saw in the woods or not.
Well, what's up in the air, you would have I don't think you would know exactly. You wouldn't be able to tell as much as if it was on the ground and you were that close to it. Like if it's up there, You'd be like, well, maybe it's farther away and it's smaller, or maybe it's closer and bigger.
Right.
Plus you'd be shitting your pants.
Oh yeah, the whole time, for sure. He said there were other crafts in this hangar as well, oval shaped, and then a couple that looked exactly like the one that he'd exited from. So this man continues to lead Travis along the hangar to a hallway and through a set of double doors, and then they enter this white room with a table and chair inside it, and then they're met by 3 other humans. He said 2 of them were men, one was a woman. He said they were gorgeous, just gorgeous.
Were they wearing black suits?
All had the same like bright blue uniform on.
Huh.
But they weren't wearing. But these 3 were not wearing helmets. He said, when they finally brought him in this room, he saw these people, and he said, "Would somebody please tell me where I'm at?" He said, "What the hell's going on? Where is this place?" No answer. They did not answer him. They only looked at him and slightly smiled. And then one of these men and the woman they came around this table towards him, and then they took him by an arm each. So they each have one of his arms, and they lead him around this table, lift him up easily, he says, onto the edge of this table, and then push him gently back, down on his back, onto the table. Then this woman places what he thought was probably like a clear oxygen mask over his mouth. And that's when everything kind of goes great for him. The next thing he remembered is lying in the pavement, looking up as this craft shot straight up into the night sky.
That's terrifying.
So, at least he didn't remember getting anally probed. I mean, that could have been worse.
you know what happened.
For that.
You know it happened. It definitely happened. That's what they want. It's their main goal.
That's all they did care about.
What's up with you and the anal probes, Far?
I'm terrified.
So after this hypnosis session, APRO sent Travis for a medical exam, and they noticed he had a small puncture wound around his elbow, like similar to like a hypodermic needle. And other than that, he showed no signs of injury, which is really weird, considering these guys saw him get pushed back.
It's almost like they helped him. Did they?
It's almost like they healed him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the other people that talk about encounters with aliens. It's so crazy that they all mention like humans come in. So are they human, or can they make themselves look like however they want to you?
Well, we'll get into the different types of aliens at some point. We don't have time to do it today.
That's a whole episode by itself.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was another urinalysis, a test done on the original voided specimen, and it showed that there was a lack of ketones. So that meant that he was not without food, like he wasn't starving for the 5 days he was gone. Although he was really dehydrated. So, but when asked, Travis stated that he believed the aliens took him to help him, possibly because he got caught in that beam of light. And when I read the portions of different articles on this, it seemed to me like he probably had radiation poisoning, is my guess, and he probably would have died had they not taken him.
Could have been. Do you think it was one of those things?
He said he felt like he was burning on the inside and the outside of his body. So that to me just says, radiation.
Like he was in a microwave.
So-
Do you think they thought maybe whatever this thing is coming for us, hit it? And then when they hit it, the other people left, they were like, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't just leave him there.
Yeah. God damn it, Mike. Told you not to do that.
Too quick on the button, Mike.
Anyway.
Down roadkill.
So over the next few weeks, debunkers would all start to harass Travis and the members of the work crew. One of these jackasses in particular, named Philip Klass, made it his life's mission to debunk. He made it his life's mission to debunk UFO cases. He harassed these guys, trying to get them all to claim it was a hoax. Told everybody that Travis had stated at one point that he'd tried marijuana a couple times. It's the 70s, and he used this statement to push it to the public. Probably Travis was a drug user because, he'd had that puncture wound on his elbow. More than likely, it had been a mix of acid and angel dust.
You don't shoot acid and angel dust, you fucking idiot. Plus, you're a reporter. You're gonna go mouthing some guys that cut down trees for a living.
Right.
That guy's got some balls, dude.
Yeah. He went on to go as far as to call Mike Rogers a goddamn liar on Larry King Live.
Oh,
yeah. You can find that on online. He went after all these guys relentlessly for years, and he did this until he died.
Was he choked to death in the middle of the night by some super strong man that used to haul around lumber?
We can only hope. But like for real, he'd harass them with letters, phone calls. He'd show up on their doorstep. Some of these guys had changed their names, moved away out of state.
Yeah,
he found their forwarding addresses, and this relentless fucking asshole would go to their house and just be like, "Look, just tell me it was all a lie." He offered Stephen Pierce, the younger guy, he offered him $10,000 to just say the whole thing was a lie. But Stephen Pierce never ever took him up on that offer, even though he badly needed the money at one point.
It's like $50,000, 70s money.
Yeah.
And none of these guys profited from this. It destroyed their lives. It didn't help them, so they weren't trying to make anything of it.
Yep. For 40 years, all these guys that witnessed this, they have stuck to the same story. No deals. None of the details have changed. They've, like I said, they passed multiple polygraphs throughout the years. They've all suffered. Travis wrote a book called The Travis Walton Experience, and then later he wrote another version called Fire in the Sky.
That's the one,
yeah, it's the one because they turned that one into the movies in the 90s, although it doesn't really follow his story very well.
Right.
They give him a serious Hollywood treatment.
Yeah, well, they always do.
The film's producer said that Travis's story was, it's just kind of boring. So they turned the aliens into these horrifying monsters. Right. When one of the writers for this book interviewed all the men for the movie, she said they were all pretty boring and not too bright. So she didn't think they could be making this up.
What an asshole.
Well, it's just an interesting fact. I mean,
well, they also wouldn't take $10,000 to say they were lying when they weren't making money from saying it was the truth.
Yeah, for sure. So later on, Mike goes back into this forest where this happened, and he takes a section of one of the trees in the area and has it analyzed. And since that time, it showed signs of rapid growth rings, but only on the side of the tree that was facing the craft.
Yeah, that is the thing that pops up. And I've heard that in a lot of things where the vegetation around where they land grows quicker.
Around Chernobyl, similar type growth rings on the trees around Chernobyl from the nuclear accident there. Yeah. Really weird story, man. Really weird.
See, I was thinking.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
I always thought my whole thing about the UFOs and why you couldn't hear them is the Earth's magnetic pull, right? So I thought, you know how you get the opposite side of magnets together and they won't stick, they just hover together. Like if you could harness that somehow, that's why it could move so fast and make no sounds. But this sounds like it's like nuclear power somehow.
Have you looked into Bob Lazar? I'm sure you guys have.
Oh yeah.
Know all about it. Like,
yeah.
And he talks about how those craft, they make no sound, and they like essentially bend gravity, or they use gravity to bend space. Essentially,
yes.
they're like just leapfrogging from point to point to point.
Yeah.
And so they're not actually like propelling themselves. They're
like creating like a wormhole. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just like essentially, they're bending space, not moving themselves. That's insane. But he talked a lot about how the one time he saw it fly, they pulled it out onto the tarmac and it just hovered there. It made no sound. He said like 8 or 9, 10 feet above the ground. You could walk underneath it, which is really unusual. He said, if it, even if it was a magnet, or of some kind, you shouldn't be able to walk underneath it or something. I don't remember exactly.
Right. You would feel
something.
Feel or sense some sort of force.
Push, some kind of
push
warping.
or pull. A positive or negative.
Right.
Type.
You'd have some sense of warpage.
Or your zipper, the zipper on your coat or buttons.
Right. Anything. Yeah. So that's a great story, man.
Yeah, man. Travis Walton continues to attend UFO conferences like around the world, retelling this encounter to this day. There's a great documentary if anybody wants to check it out. It's just called Travis. You can find it on app like Tubi's. It's on Tubi for free if you want to check it out. And if you're really interested, you can get a copy of his book. It will take a little bit. It took mine about 2.5 weeks to get here, but you can pick one up on TravisWalton.com for $30. And I didn't ask for an autograph, but I got an autograph from Travis Walton, and I have Travis Walton's P.O. box, and he also sent me a DVD. So that's pretty cool for $30, man.
That's pretty awesome. They're in a cardboard box by his door. He's just got them sitting there stacked up, and he grabs one through.
Probably,
yeah. It's that way. He's like a musician. He's just got, the poor guy's still not making any money. You see him on interviews and stuff. He's still got a crappy brown suit on like he had in 1982.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the last thing I think I saw him on, most recent thing, was probably Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Wasn't a long segment.
No, it wasn't. But I just find it's interesting that that it's almost 50 years ago. The story's never changed.
That's pretty impressive.
I kind of tend to want to believe it, but I guess that's just me.
No, that's me too, man. I'm all over that. That and Betty and Barney Hill, their stories never changed.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys, they're very compelling stories. And with all the sightings now, I mean, I don't know who they are or what it is, but there's obviously something buzzing around our skies. It just makes sense that with our new capabilities, everybody's basically a cameraman now. We're going to pick up something.
Yeah.
But I guess these things, or whatever they are, these orbs they're constantly out off the coast messing with
the Tic Tacs. Yeah.
Yeah. Those things are constantly there. They're always there.
Yep.
This is more and more reports coming in. They're letting it out and being like, "Yep, there's something."
Yep.
Have either of you guys seen a UFO?
Never.
I thought I did one time. I really did. We were driving down in Florida. We were along that. There's the coastal highway there down towards like Key West, and we were driving. There's a really long bridge that goes to Key West. Goes over all the keys and whatnot. We were driving over, and I saw this silver orb in the sky, as plain as day. I mean, it was in the middle of the day, and I was like, my wife was sleeping. and so was my.
Did you give her one of those? Like, come on, wake up, wake up, wake up.
No, I wanted to, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't, a balloon or something. And it never moved. It never moved. It just stayed right there. And I was like, oh my God, I'm looking at a UFO, I was looking around at people. Nobody seemed to notice in the cars around me. Like nobody seemed to be like pointing or whatever. But sure enough, I got closer and it was just a balloon. It was like,
shit.
I was so psyched though. I can't tell you how excited I was.
Man.
I was so pumped. I was so pumped. I was like, I had my I was driving with my phone, like all like this, and I was like filming it and everything.
Yeah,
I got up there, you could see the strings and ropes hanging off the bottom. And I was like, God.
What the fuck they call those kind of balloons? The ones that hold the helium that are like that. I don't remember. All of them.
I was so stoked.
Most of them got a bright silver back. It wasn't the front that had like a panda bear on it or some shit. It was the back silver.
The giant weather balloon is all.
Look out, it's coming right for us.
Yeah.
So,
well, Matt, tell everybody where they can go to check out your latest tour dates and where they can pick up all your latest releases.
MattPossBand.com. It's actually the only spot you can hear my music right now. I took everything down from Spotify. I'm going to re-release it onto DistroKid because CD Baby. Well, I shouldn't even say those names. I'm sorry, but I wasn't happy with
that shit out.
So I'm going to re-release it, and MattPossBand.com is the only place you can hear any of my music right now online, and YouTube. You can hear it on YouTube, but that's just me and my guitar farting around and some live band stuff. But you can, it's youtube.com/MattPoss.
Right on.
So,
and stick around after the outro music, and I'll have one of Matt's songs playing after that. So
hell yeah!
Be sure and go check out Matt Poss Band, one of the best writers that I know in Illinois for sure. And I miss jamming with you, man.
You too, brother. You too. Love you guys.
That's the way to do it, dude. Just do it yourself. Don't let anybody else take some of your money away. It's freaking crazy. It's like musicians don't make money from freaking music when they go through other people. It's only like merch and shows. That's it. Dude,
that's it.
Nothing else. Yep. Pennies on the dollar, half penny on the dollar.
Oh, it's bananas. Yeah, how little money you make. That's why all my buddies are doing what you guys are doing. We're all diversifying and trying to get audiences other places. At least. And I've even thought about launching a podcast too. But you guys beat me to it and showing me how to do it, man. I love it. It's like talking about UFOs.
Hey.
This is the stuff. You guys ever talk about UFOs? Please include me on the podcast because I'm all about it.
Right, we've had a couple.
You missed Betty and Barty Hill, but yeah, this is only the second one we've done on UFOs.
Maybe
it's a cryptid. It's a different thing.
Yeah, but Bigfoot. I'm into Bigfoot too.
You just missed it, man. We just did the Ohio Grassman.
Yeah, with the Frogman, love-looking Frogman.
All right, so we get into any squashes, we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Hell yeah!
All right,
happy birthday.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
exactly.
it.
Happy birthday, Zach.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Continue to like, rate, review, subscribe, or whatever to the podcast. I don't know what they call it these days. It's always changing. But you can always hit us up online on the social medias. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, or you can email us at hmfppod@gmail.com. Thank you guys for hanging out with me on my birthday. Appreciate it very much. Cheers to all y'all. And guys, thank you all for listening. And until next week, we'll see you next Tuesday. Later.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
It's alive!
I was with you.
They're coming to get you. What out of Christ. This is
Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Last night I was on the highway, buzzing down the byway when a big old light blazed up in the sky. shaped just like a tic-tac, damn near gave me a heart attack, left me wondering how and what and why. So I turned on my TV, and there before my eyes to see was the same damn thing I just saw. With a statement from the CIA saying yes, they're real and they're here to stay, and no one seemed shocked by this at all. Got your race war and your vote war and your COVID-19 mask war. Reality is crazy and surreal. But who gives a damn about blockchain or cancellation cocaine? Cause holy shit, UFOs are real. They can't accuse me of being woke, but brother, I'm so stoked while folks are walking around like it's no big deal. Mr. News, may I inquire why your hair is not on fire, yelling, holy shit, UFOs are real. So I slid down to YouTube, but it only made me confused. Joe Rogan, Eddie Bravo, and Alex Jones. Interdimensional pedophiles and gay-ass frogs, giant owls. Lord have mercy, it goes on and on. So I jumped into my jet car, flew by and picked up Bob Lazar and George and Lex and Jeremiah Corbell. We met Tom DeLonge at S4, popped buttons and kicked in the door, yelling, Mick West, you can go to hell. We got your drug war and a sex war and a never-ending golf war. All you nerds jump up and give me a squeal. Cause who gives a damn about blockchain or cancellation cocaine? Cause holy shit, UFOs are real. Can't accuse me of being woke, but brother, I'm so stoked while folks are walking around like it's no big deal. Mr. News, may I inquire why your hair is not on fire, yelling, holy shit, UFOs are real. Yeah, little devil do you said amen, hallelujah. Holy shit, UFOs are real. I said holy fucking shit, UFOs